This is Empowered Health, a Holistic View, and I am Kate Maslowski, the founder of Holistic Health Collaborative, and I'm actually on my own wellness journey as well. This podcast is going to cover everything you want and need to know about alternative medicine. We're going to be diving into the holistic world to help you on your journey to find real, lasting health for your mind, body, and spirit. If you've struggled, like me, with health issues, you definitely aren't alone, and exploring holistic healthcare options might be an option for you for your improved well-being. These discussions are designed to help listeners feel informed and empowered enough to control their own health. Join us every week to hear from patients and practitioners about their own personal and professional wellness journeys. Learn about different healing modalities and their origins, and also get informed so you can experience your own empowered health. Thank you so much for joining. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to be coming back from our July break with Cori Sue Morris, and we're going to be talking all things, Cori Sue's journey, but also a little bit about microdosing, which is a topic that I am super psyched about just because, as I mentioned to Cori Sue earlier, that's something that I've been dabbling with myself, but don't even understand kind of what it does or how it helps and stuff like that. But would love for you, Cori Sue, to give an introduction and tell us more about yourself and your journey and who you are. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to speak with your community. Yeah, I mean, these are my favorite topics, right? Women building things, health, microdosing. So I'm excited to dive in. I'm a serial entrepreneur based in New York City. I run a company called Retreat. We are a platform for content, community, and coaching around microdosing for psychedelic newcomers. And this is my third business. I have built a few businesses set out to help women, and found my way to microdosing through a winding road. And I'm really, grateful to be creating this platform to help other women heal.
I think that's incredible. So incredible. And can you talk a little bit too more about your Retreat platform and what led you to start it?
So I like to joke that sort of my three businesses have started by accident, sort of helping women in my community with advice. Back 10 years ago, gosh, I like to say before everybody was a blogger, I started a media company. All around brunch. It was cheekily called Bitches Who Brunch. It was just like,
I love that.
Want to be a little bit less behaved on the weekends. And I came out of journalism school and I was working for a magazine, and I just sort of saw all the kind of luxury lifestyle magazines, both regionally and nationally, speaking to this sort of like affluent, older woman. And I was, 22, and I was like, why can't I find like a party that isn't a $500 ticket to a gala and like, reasonable fashion advice and cool spots to brunch. And so, built this brand over 10 years, sort of in the heyday of millennials and brunch. And at the end of it, we had 1 million monthly uniques, 15 employees. And we're just, but it all started me like helping women with brunch recommendations and fashion advice, and then, scaled it with intention. My second business was a marketing agency helping, small businesses like yours and mine scale and grow, because women just started coming to me, oh, you built this brand. Can you help me build mine? And I was like, oh, well, that's a different business, but I would love to help you, stand up a website, tell your story, build your brand. I built those, as I mentioned, over, the better part of a decade, and then sold them both, which is a really interesting exercise to go through. And then I've been really open about my kind of health journey over the last few years. And I started talking about mushrooms on LinkedIn and Instagram. And then all these women started asking me like, well, how do I use mushrooms for my mental health? And so here we are, trying to help the girls. And Retreat is a online platform. We have a free media arm where we write articles by journalists about things like, can microdosing help your creativity? Yes, it can, through your divergent thinking. Can microdosing help your sex life? Sometimes it can, fun stuff like that. We have a free community. And then we also offer a microdosing coaching membership where you can work with a coach, whether that's a health coach, a life coach, a entrepreneurial coach, and utilize coaching and microdosing in parallel to drive sort of outcomes and change. We're building out also an app and also a healthcare membership where we have sort of future state doctors and therapists that can kind of drive more traditional Western medicine a change. But for right now, it's content, community, and coaching.
That's so amazing. And so, I mean, I love your background too, and that you have the 3 companies that have all been in alignment with like helping women and stuff like that. Has the advice that people have been seeking been the same throughout the decade that you've been doing this?
No, that's so interesting. I think I've really grown substantially into like, there's more substance, right? Helping someone with a brunch recommendation, helping someone, get off their antidepressants. Is severity and tension. And I think that I noticed that shift, obviously, with the sort of support that I've, built my businesses around, as well as the kind of conversations we're having, right? I think 10 years ago, people were really excited about wearing the latest dress and going to this brunch and Instagramming their mimosas. And certainly I was. And then you think about the way it's part of getting older, but I think our culture is changing. The world has changed. The world's pretty tough these days. And so, I hear from a lot of women, they want to feel more grounded. They want to feel more connected. They want to feel more spiritual. They don't want to just get like drunk on the weekends with mimosas and mask all the pain and suffering, for lack of a better way to say it. I'm an optimist, but it does sort of feel like these days it's hard to be optimistic all the time. So yeah, I think the conversations are changing across the board. What I talk about with my friends, what I talk about online, what people are coming to me for. Another example that I'll give you is when I first started, a marketer. So we have like, we're A/B testing messaging on the website. And I thought when I first started this, like capitalism, right? How to hack your productivity and improve your focus and creativity. And I tested that against like how to find more joy and connection. And everybody was like, I want the joy. Like,
yes.
Activity. So I thought that was a really like eye-opening, lesson. And I'm hearing that anecdotally as well as sort of the data. So yeah, I think the world is changing and women are like, screw this. This is shit.
Yep. 100%. And it is like, that's what, like so many friends, like we're having that conversation of, I was in tech for 15 years in sales and business development, and I have friends who are executives, and they're just, so many people now have worked their way up to what society has coined to be successful. And they're like, what is this all for? I'm like, I know, and kind of trying to figure out what's my purpose, but yeah, that's why I think it's an incredible platform that you have. And so how did you start getting into microdosing?
So I had exited both of the media company and the marketing agency, and I went to go work at WeWork because I really wanted to build something in the health and wellness space that helped women, but I didn't know what yet. So I said, okay, marketing is my skill set. I'll go work for someone else and get some more experience and figure out what I want to do next. And it's 2019. It was so exciting. Like WeWork had just,
oh yeah,
money and we're growing and scaling. And I was like, this is so cool. And I spent about 6 months there and got my feet from under me beneath me as sort of this like new big girl role. And then sort of now they made a movie out of it, but the IPO exploded. All the drama happened with Adam Newman and like all the, everything that they've memorialized in a film and like lots of newspaper articles. And I was sort of like in the thick of it. And it really started waking up in the morning and I couldn't get out of bed. I was, my body was breaking out in like hives. I was like, I think I have an autoimmune disease, like what, 30 really, like no one told you that like, the difference between 29 and 30 is going to really, really hurt. Like, God, no one told me this. And it was my stress levels were like literally manifesting themselves as like pain, inflammation, rashes. It wasn't fortunately something more severe, but it was just my hormones were completely off because women, we internalize all of this stress. And I had just internalized all of this like fear, stress, trauma, laying people off on my team that was like really emotionally affecting me. So I went to a number of Western doctors. They couldn't tell me what was wrong. Of course, my woman acupuncturist was like, you should, look at your hormones and you should, I found functional mushrooms. I got really into functional mushrooms. And, for those listening, there's like table mushrooms like shiitake and portobello. And then there's functional mushrooms, often called nootropics or adaptogens. These are kind of umbrella terms for mushrooms that have a healing property, often hormonal, and, reishi, cordyceps chaga are all types. And I started playing around with those. I started a functional snack company all around mushrooms, and then started getting really like curious about mushrooms generally. I have a little like mushroom tattoo, and I started reading about the benefits of psychedelic mushrooms. And to me, that was like, wow, because I didn't really like do drugs in college. I like, never did psychedelics. I'm not like a Grateful Dead fan. I was like, what am I like? I write down, 30 years of misinformation. I did reading for 18 months of research. Obviously, I read every Michael Pollan book, James Fadiman, Paul Stamets. I just did just nerded out on mushrooms. And then I finally got around to trying them, and it was beautiful and transformative and not at all scary. And I was just like, well, a lot of people can benefit from this, but not everybody's going to do 2 years of research before they sort of touch this. And so there's clearly something here. And I think, and that's my journey, but also I think for the longest time back to that like conversation, I thought that I could just biohack my health and productivity, and that I didn't need to address my mental health, and that everything would be fine. And I think that it was so naive in hindsight, right? Like the mind body connection, obviously think that you can just sort of stretch your way out of like tension when it's actually from deep rooted trauma that you need to deal with emotionally. So I'm still working through a lot of that. It's a journey, as they say, but mushrooms can be really, really therapeutic when used in macro and micro doses with like the right support. So
100%. Can you touch on some of the benefits of microdosing?
Yeah, I think most of the research, clinically has been focused on psilocybin mushrooms in macro journeys. That's for a number of reasons, right? Like the studies are around like more severe things like depression, alcohol use disorder, etc. And, all that I can say is like oftentimes, if psilocybin mushroom opens your, helps with neurogenesis and opens your neural pathways at a macro level, you can kind of draw the conclusion or the association that it probably does something similar at a micro level. So there's a couple studies out there. I'm getting excited about a lot more that are coming, but walking through the benefits that are both self-reported and done through a number of microdosing studies. The first one from brain power, right? Psilocybin mushrooms have an incredibly positive effect on the brain. They open up divergent thinking, as I mentioned, which is basically like enhancing your ability to create a problem, solve, and think out of the box. There is also a connection between psilocybin mushrooms and mood. They latch onto the same serotonin receptor as antidepressants, but instead of having sort of a blunting effect the way antidepressants do, they have sort of a more like ongoing lasting effect, like an afterglow. So many people microdose for, creativity, productivity, kind of those benefits that you would get whether you're working on a creative project. Yep. A lot of people microdose for mood, and then getting a little woo, which is not sort of quantified in a study, but mushrooms, right? Like they connect us all. They connect the trees underground. They've been on this planet for, centuries and thousands and thousands of years. And mushrooms have this incredibly like grounding, connecting quality that really helps you feel more human and more grounded. And I think it's hard to describe until you start to go through those processes. And it's subtle, right? It's very similar to starting a meditation practice or kicking alcohol or coffee, right? But myself and many of our clients, many of my people in my community, they start microdosing because they want to, drink less, which is another amazing benefit. They want to improve their mood. They want to do these sort of like tactical things. And then they find that they feel just more connected, more joyful, more spiritual in a way that is unlike any kind of other substance. And it's all natural.
Yes, 100%. And from personal experience, that has been that's why everybody was like, well, how did you feel? And I'm like, I just feel more like me. But I have the energy to do the things because I've been on a journey with Lyme disease and also doing, trauma work, mental health work. And it's trying to start a business and it gets I was exhausted. I'm like, I can't even, I just didn't feel like myself. I was like, oh my God, like, how can I just get through? And so it's given me the energy and the creativity to be able to launch a business while like processing and getting through kind of old stuff. So it's been great. Yeah.
You've been dealing with the Lyme disease. It's wild. It's becoming so much more prevalent and that has to be so tough.
It's so tough and it's so underdiagnosed right now. Like there was a documentary I watched called The Quiet Epidemic, and it's just, I was like, that resonates. Like more people should watch that. But yeah, that's a lot of people with autoimmune. I mean, who knows, but a lot of people, they miss the diagnosis just because it's really hard to test. And the symptoms are pretty crazy. So, and it's different for everybody across the board.
Yeah. What have you found that really helps manage it?
Oh God, it's tough when the symptoms start to come on, but what really worked for me was it's a mix of like diet, exercise, and being on the right herbal supplements for me really worked. And so working with a practitioner who was Lyme literate, who knew what was going on, and working with her for about 6 to 8 months it took me, but stuff started to like, my inflammation started to go down for the first time in like 8 to 10 years. Like, so I was like, okay, so that for me was like, oh my God, eye-opening. More recently, the symptoms have come back. And so I haven't gone back onto any other herbal supplements yet, but we'll do that. I'm going to be working with her again shortly to try and address it. So yeah, but it's just
the worst. It's so hard.
Yeah.
There's those culprits are everywhere in our modern society. So.
Yep. And I had moved. And so I think that's what kicked it off. I think I moved to a place with mold. I moved in April, and by May, all my symptoms started to kick off again. And I was like, oh boy, here we go again. So I don't know if that was the reason, but yeah, at least I know now what's going on and I'm more in control of it. And like, that's where too, the microdosing has given me the energy to be able to still run my business. Whereas before I would be out for like a week of just sleeping and barely being able to get out of bed. So,
Kate, but that's the thing, like managing your health is a full-time job when you have Lyme disease, but also in this day and age, right? Like we were both talking how we took like less, like, well, I didn't really take a break in July, but the last week I've taken a break and I've just been really like mindful of getting my health back on track. And it's like doing research on all the things that can kill you, like getting water and like, switching my almond milks. And it's like, I don't even want to be that like high key person. Like I still love a gluten-free pizza every now and then. Right. But like, it's not like this is not like Gwyneth Paltrow we're talking about. It's just like literally removing the toxins, like the mold, the PFAs that are out there. And don't want to be like alarmist, but it's like, shoot, everything in my house could kill me.
Yes, literally. Yeah. That's why, and trying not to like stress too much about that stuff too. And slowly, like I had to take it slow with like, I finally switched out my pots and pans. And then I went to all glass container because doing everything at once, like you said, it's everything in the house. You're like, oh my God, or going out to eat. Like, I don't want to be asking people, well, like, what oils do you cook in and what type of almond, like, so it's kind of like doing a nice balance between all of that. So, because it can stress you out more if you're thinking about everything.
I got married last year and we put green pan on our registry. This hashtag not sponsored, but I just like love our green pan pans, right? And then same thing. I have like glass Tupperware, and I finally made that thing when my husband brought home like a regular countertop cleaner, and I was like, you're a monster. And he was like, excuse me. I was like, are you trying to kill me and my unborn child and the dog? It was also the pods and the washer. And I was like, I'm a sociopath. Like this like plastic goes into the water and then it goes into our clothes and then it could kill the dog and it could kill Mark. And it kills the turtle. And I was like, and he was just like, but I was like, I don't know how to explain this more dramatically than like, these pods are the worst thing in the world. And if you bring one more in my house, like I can't like deal with you.
Not doing it anymore. Yeah. It's funny because I used to make fun of people or friends who would be like so anal about the products that they use and the things they put in. But what happened to me is I started reacting to everything. So, and I laughed, but like I literally had a reaction to detergent. I was covered head to toe in this crazy rash. I had an allergic reaction to, this is different, but like pea protein covered it. Like, so I just started to react to things and I was like, oh, okay. Like I really can't, like the toxins in my body are pretty much overloaded. So that's why I'm not responding. But I'm like, okay, there's really something to it. And so, yeah.
Right. I think that's the thing, right? Our bodies are working like in overtime to protect us from these toxins, these plastics, the dryer sheets and the detergent. And then when you have these things like an autoimmune or a period of high stress, your body breaks down and it can't survive anymore. Yeah, I got a rash on dryer sheets 10 years ago. It never happened again, but it was like a stressful time period. But that doesn't mean that those toxins aren't there and I shouldn't, remove them from the house. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah. And that's why I love, again, even going back to a platform like yours. Yeah, no, it's amazing. Even so on retreat, how do people contact you? Is it like, can they research on the website or?
Our website's retreatmicrodose.com. And we have, a whole like content arm. It's you just retreatmicrodose.com. You hit journal. There's these great articles. It's like written by journalists, often, leveraging clinical studies and things around like all sorts of articles for women, right? Like how to go on a psychedelic retreat and, do so safely, right? Because a woman going on a solo vacation is very different than a man going on a solo vacation. Like, what is a microdosing protocol? What does it matter? We have a free microdosing guide that's available to everyone. It's just retreatmicrodose.com/free guide. And that's a great like 101 on how to learn to microdose. And then, the services that we offer is this microdosing subscription model where, you can work with a coach, whether it is health goals, right? Like working through an autoimmune and using microdosing as a catalyst for change, or whether it's, more career focused. I think back to that sort of like vitality piece. So we've got all of these things weighing us down emotionally as women in society, and then all these chemicals that are literally weighing us down, and the list goes on. But I think some things that, can help bring vitality back up, right? Mushrooms can be really helpful with your energy levels, as you mentioned, both like actually having more energy during the day, as well as like changing limiting beliefs and shifting behaviors. And then another thing is, right, the coaching model, right? Like I didn't work with a coach for years, but now I was like, I don't need to work with a coach. Like I'm really good at execution and resilience. And it was like, a coach can really help you work through limiting beliefs and see your blockers the same way microdosing can. So I think we're seeing really great, we've been around for a few months. We're seeing really great like results with our community of people who've been able to make change. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves, right? Like a lot of people, there's narratives that are very similar, right? A lot of women are curious around microdosing for Lyme. There isn't enough research there, but that's one topic. A number of individuals are interested in using microdosing as a mood booster to reduce dependence on SSRIs. There's obviously a lot of, depending on the severity of your depression, there's obviously a lot of risk there. But if you have, like, say, you have low-grade depression and you were overprescribed SSRIs, like microdosing could be a really interesting tool, but figuring out how we do that safely. But there's these currents in society that I'm seeing, right? I want to drink less. I want to get off my antidepressants. Yes. I'm struggling with Lyme disease, and it's women, right, that mostly are coming to us for those reasons. And so I'm excited about the future where we can help support some of these conditions and challenges.
What do you say? Because you must hear a lot too. And that's why I love you and your background. Like, you're corporate, like had companies, executive. And I think like microdosing and plant medicine can be seen as like a hippie thing. Like, oh, how do you address that? Or do you hear that often?
Yeah, I think that's my mission, right? Is to normalize psychedelic medicine. My goal is not to get everybody on mushrooms every weekend. My goal is to help women heal. Yes. And microdosing is one tool to do that. There are other really powerful tools like breathwork and sound baths, and there's a lot of holistic tools, which because you help people find holistic providers, right? Yes, like exactly. There's a lot of tools they can use, but I think mushrooms in particular have been, are really attractive to a lot of people because they're natural and they grow in the ground. And yes, they are currently like highly regulated by our government, but that's changing very quickly. And mushrooms are different than all of these synthetic drugs. You can't, like, yes, LSD is a psychedelic and so are mushrooms, but one is chemical and one is just a brown little mushroom that grows in the ground. Yes. And they need to be treated with reverence, right? For anyone who's gone on a macro journey, it is something that you should take seriously. You should set intentions. You should create safety protocols, like all of that. but, and I could go on, but like in terms of like toxicity, in terms of being scared of something, like mushrooms are beautiful and can be very healing. So I want to be that quote unquote, what is normal, but like the person that isn't from this night. Like I want to rebrand the mushroom for the normal woman. I you want to say, coming to my branding background, right? And so I'm just trying to use the tools that I have to provide the information that I can find, and for those that are curious, mushroom curious, as I like to say, we want to be there to help.
Yes, 100%. I love that. I love that. And it's been so helpful in the healing journey for that. And because it's natural, like there have been months where I've gone and don't touch it. And so it's not addictive. It's not like, I do notice my energy levels dropping when I haven't, but it's nothing that I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I forgot I haven't taken any mushrooms for a while. So like,
there's this amazing doctor in the United Kingdom named David Nutt, and he just published a book. I think it's called Psychedelics. He's published a number of books, but he did a study where he ranked drugs on a basis of harm. There were 16 factors, 8 individual, sort of physical health, toxicity levels, etc. And then there was societal kind of communal factors, like would you get into a car and, crash it? Would you say something mean? I don't have them all memorized, but there were 8 factors of harm to self and 8 factors of harm to others. And he ranked them all. Can you guess kind of what the most harmful drug out there is?
Like alcohol.
Yes. Alcohol was higher than heroin. It was like a, top of the scale on this, like, and then you look at mushrooms and it was a 2, like on a scale of, I think it was 80 or 100. Right. And it's like up there is alcohol, heroin, cocaine. And then, these are all, they have huge societal and individual repercussions. And then you look at mushrooms and it was like a 2.
Yes.
And so alcohol is more harmful than heroin, and it's legal. And then lumping all these things together, and society, we've been taught that drugs are bad, and there's just like everything in 2023, there's a lot of nuance. You can't just kind of universally say X is bad, Y is good. You have to kind of dig a little deeper.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you said it too, even with the mushrooms, of like, when you are doing it right on a macro dose, it's setting the intentions, it's taking it seriously, it's acknowledging like what you're trying to get. It's not trying to avoid any more issues. You need to work with somebody to understand, what you're truly doing with it, and what you're trying to accomplish for yourself. And that's the proper way to, I think,
that intentionality, I think, is certainly, they call it preparation, journey, and then integration of sort of the 3 terms for a macro journey. And a macro journey is obviously you take a lot of mushrooms and you do hallucinate, and you often see a lot of things. Like for me, a lot of people and myself see, like, you see harmful behaviors that you've been doing, in your life, and you go back to moments and you see all sorts of colors and a number of things. And I think that sort of intention, preparation, and support is also essential for microdosing, which is why we offer coaching services. And then, and I'm sort of thinking that also seems like a good idea in life, in anything, right? Like for your day, writing down your intention, preparing for your day, aligning your action, and then kind of reflecting. I think that sort of 3-part journey adage works for microdosing, but it also just works for having a good day.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. I know. We don't think about it, myself included. I don't think about it. I kind of get out of bed and I'm like, oh my God, I'm into the day and have so much. And I know that's bad from even being on my own journey and healing journey and stuff like that. But the reality is we don't stop and think about those things, and it can make a huge difference. So yeah, that's awesome. And as far as like dosing, is everybody different, or do you recommend different protocols on the website?
Yeah. Our coaches can kind of help you, and we'll do a screening intake where we kind of go through some leading indicators of how you may metabolize mushrooms. Everyone's different. It's not related to sort of weight. Yep. It's the way alcohol is. There are a number of things that can affect dosage. So it's the source. So is your sort of like, where are your mushrooms grown? Are they in gummy form, pill form, the strain of mushrooms, similar to cannabis, there are all sorts of different strains. They have different benefits. And then the individual mushroom, right? This is a natural substance. So it's not a synthetic where it's super dosed. So there's a lot of, and then on the personal side, it's sort of caffeine, alcohol intake, how you metabolize things. So lots of factors, but no need to sort of get overwhelmed. We have guides on this and a coach, like I said, but you start low and you go slow, right? So a microdose is typically 1/10 or 1/12 of a macro dose. So it's meant to be very subtle. It's usually around, 100 to 300 milligrams, I want to say. So much smaller. And we can kind of help you through that. But just, you want to kind of start with like one supplement and then see how you go, create the space to maybe, microdose. If you're going to start a microdosing protocol, maybe start it on a Friday or a Saturday. Don't just like take a microdose before a big meeting. The chances are like going to be subtle, but you want to maybe create a space when you're trying something new to make sure everything goes smoothly.
Well, and I will say the first time I did it, and it wasn't like I just I had this energy all of a sudden, but I started crying because I was like, I feel more like myself than I have in a year. Like, oh my God. So it was like, it wasn't anything. I didn't feel anything. I just had energy. I went on a hike. I was like, oh my God, I haven't been able to function like in a full day like this. And so it did. I was like crying. I was emotional. I'm like, I just feel more like myself. So
wonderful. You're right. That's beautiful. But sometimes when you've been suppressed, certainly for me, when you've been suppressing all these feelings and all these emotions as a woman just to survive, it's like, oh my God, I'm feeling again. Yeah, I was listening to classical music, and all of a sudden I'm just like hysterically crying. And my husband was like, is everything okay? I was like, yeah, I just wasn't expecting to feel today.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes don't even realize how bad you feel on an everyday basis. It's like it becomes your norm. So it just was like, oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Thing, right? We want to help people heal. And then there's a nuance there when you're so used to being like, I'm going to take an Advil and it's going to, numb the pain, or an antidepressant. So really educating people on that this is a healing journey, and that there may be tears. There will also be energy there. You might improve focus. It just all depends back on your intention. So
Yep. 100%. No, I think that's amazing. And can you touch on the science behind it a little bit of like, and no big deal if you do, but like SSRIs versus like, because I know you mentioned the same serotonin receptors that it came off of, but like,
I basically, there's like a 5-HT receptor, and I'm not a doctor, and I don't play one on TV, but I've done some research on that, and then and also a lot of talking to people. Basically, when you take an antidepressant, it has sort of a blunting effect, and it latches on to a serotonin receptor 5-HT and kind of reduces it. And my understanding is you just kind of feel a little bit like blasé, whereas early studies around psilocybin have sort of a positive effect on your serotonin receptors. I guess the analogy I would use is like, when you're taking antidepressants, your serotonin receptors, like your muscles are atrophying versus like you're lifting weights with your serotonin receptors, kind of the analogy I would use. One makes it like worse and less like resilient, and the other makes it more resilient in a natural way.
Okay. Yep. That's why. Yeah.
You can also put some like studies in the show notes, because I don't want to make sure that I like didn't
100%. No
study to put it in the show notes so that like people can get the actual clinical data and not my sort of like analogy.
Yes. No, definitely. I want to put all the data in there and stuff like that, just because it's fascinating and it's so interesting to people, and it is newer, even though it's not. Mushrooms have been around for a long time, but
they're really promising clinical studies for psilocybin mushrooms on treatment-resistant depression. There is a study on that has really shown promise. And then another one is on alcohol use disorder and psilocybin macro journeys, as well as PTSD. So there's been a huge increase in clinical research over the last like 10 to 15 years coming out of universities like Johns Hopkins, like Columbia, and global universities that are seeing the promising. And to me, there's a science behind it, and let the study speak to that, because I didn't do that well in chemistry class in the 10th grade. But for me, it's also an energy shift, right? Like what I see when I see all of these amazing studies. People are like, how can one mushroom do depression, alcohol use disorder, smoking cessation, trauma? There's science behind all of that, but it helps you shift your beliefs. I think that psychedelics can be really powerful for. Actually, it's not about getting everybody on mushrooms every weekend. It's about using them as a catalyst for change. You have trauma, you have limiting beliefs. Our Western model I'm still in favor of the Western medicine model, but it doesn't think about healing the individual, right? Like what trauma, what beliefs, what energy do you need to work through? What PTSD, what do you need to get out of you that's blocking you from change? And having that transformative kind of jolt and can really alter behavior. And that's what I really take away from this, is that mushroom can be a macro journey if you want to do everything from get over something that happened in your past to shift a behavior that is really, really harmful. And I'm excited about what mushrooms can offer, along with a sort of care model that thinks about healing and forgiveness versus just there's something wrong with you.
Yep. I think it's incredible. And I'm so excited about your website. So what else you've had the most interesting journey. Like I said, I love it. And I love how your healing journey has turned into helping women with, like you say, brunch, and then marketing, and then now it's just healing in general. But what would you say is the biggest piece of advice that you have for people, or that you've received actually on your journey?
My journey, I think the support system is a realization that I have had. I'm an ENTJ. I'm really good at execution. I think I thought for a long time that I could just build in my office attached to my laptop for 12 hours a day. And then I was I'm going to do it myself. I'm just the inner child in me is in the corner of the playground being yep, you guys are a bunch of schmucks. I'm going to build it myself. and then it's actually the power of community, the power of a coach, the power of accountability groups. Again, I was just what sounds like another thing I need to do when you're a small business owner. It's another I don't need to meet with my accountability group or my coach. It's just another Zoom meeting. But the power of support community to help you accomplish what you need to do is really cannot be, it's just so valuable. And particularly as women, right? I used to think it's obviously we have the short end of the stick societally. There's but having a community of women to work through things and to understand that you're not alone isn't just about the emotional piece. It can actually help unblock you and help you through. So coming to the realization that I don't need to do this alone.
That's huge. Yeah.
And also to ask for help, right? I was I want to, for the longest time, I was I'm going to help all these other people heal. And it's oh, well, what about you? You deserve to heal too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I don't know if it kicked off for you, but even here I was I want to connect people. And obviously that's my passion, is connecting people looking for healing with practitioners and people that can help them. But starting this company kicked off my own healing journey. And so it was almost wait, for you to be able to help others, so you're going to go through it and be in it too. So, yeah.
There are a number of tools that I use, right? I think that the biggest one is the coaching and a community accountability piece. And then also, I think back to those day-to-days, the power of sort of journaling, meditation, microdosing in the morning, and setting your mornings up for success, and sort of that intention, those micro shifts can be really powerful. And I think you see a lot of Instagram quotes about change your day, change your life. But it's actually true. If you really create those micro shifts. And I think it's not all woo, right? The intentionality of creating the space every day for those micro steps forward can be really, really powerful. So setting up your mornings, right? Something that I've finally doing the meditation every morning, and it has been transformative.
Okay. I've got to get on that. I know. I think that's amazing. No, and amazing advice, just because like you say, I think in general, we've got it I've got this, or you sometimes just get to a point where you're so stressed out and so tired for myself. I was like, I don't even know where to begin with asking for help or how to find it and stuff. So, but it is there, it exists. And there are platforms like yours and mine that people can find the help that they need and stuff like that. So I think that's incredible. Is there anything that we didn't cover today that you wanted to get out as far as a message from even having all your companies and being on this journey? And
yeah, I think, well, just some miscellaneous thoughts. I think back to that community piece, like, well, one, women, we know ourselves and we know something is wrong. And I think I see this overwhelming trend in the news and communities and society that like people tell you you're fine, whether it's in pregnancy and like, maternal mortality rates or, Lyme disease and misdiagnosed things. Like women, we know our bodies. We have incredible intuition. We know when you know something is wrong, don't ignore it, whether that's emotional or all the way, to what you're dealing with an autoimmune disease. And then back to the piece of like, there is such power in community and healing, right? You've created an amazing community, back to use the pregnancy analogy, like the power of doulas, the power of psychedelic medicine that has been passed down through like women healers, right? Like we've gotten away from this community piece. And I'm seeing over and over in the psychedelic industry, in maternal, in these community healing groups, like so much of this knowledge is like passed down through networks. And so that's another just like theme I'm really, really passionate about, is sort of creating these communities to help women heal. So that's what I
love that.
And our society is like, that's the other thing. I was like, how can we be healthy when everything is so broken? So creating kind of micro shifts of change and helping heal together. And when you show up for yourself every day and fix that, it reverberates into your community. And I'm a big believer in sort of these nowadays, this change can help in these groups of people, and it can reverberate. So I
think that's incredible. It's such an amazing message and strong message. And it's so true. It's so true. We can find healing. I think another piece of that too is that healing isn't overnight. I think our society too, there's education there around like healing isn't a quick fix. Like it doesn't have to be long or a lifetime, but it's not a quick fix. So that's, I've had people ask me before, like, what probiotic are you on? And I was like, no, it's been a lot more than that. So
that's why we have like these ongoing care, and why we're building out a healthcare platform, right? Because I look around in the healthcare space and it's like, take this one thing and it'll change your life. Like take this scoop of collagen or this hyaluronic acid or this like one supplement and your whole life will change forever and ever. And you're like, really? So, I love to believe that, but now we know it's not true. It requires the intention and a number of factors. So.
Yeah. No, 100%. Well, I just thank you so much for coming on. It's been so amazing hearing your journey. And I think it's so incredible what you're doing. And I'm super excited to come across your path and have you on here to share information. I'm really excited about what you're building. And
likewise, this was so fun. I'm so grateful to spend time together, and I'm looking forward to doing more of it in the future. And thanks everybody for hearing my story. I hope it can be helpful and that we can help some of you heal. So
100%. That's what it's all about. Thank you so much, Cori Sue. Thank you so much for taking another holistic view of your health with us. I hope you've really enjoyed today's discussion. And as always, take control of your own wellness journey by exploring the practitioners and modalities available near you or on our directory at www.holistichealthcollab.com. Don't forget to subscribe here so you don't miss an episode. And you can also find more holistic health tidbits at Holistic Health Collab on Instagram. Please leave a rating and review to help us reach more people that might need to hear this information. If you have any questions about today's show or any ideas for future episodes, or if you just want to reach out, you can contact me directly, Kate Maslowski, at kate@holistichealthcollab.com. You can just put podcast in your subject line. Again, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.